Hello students, welcome to the lecture on communication at work. And after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Understand the importance of communication at work. Explain the nature and functions of letters. Discuss principles, process, and format of letter writing. Describe many types of job letters. Understand the structure of employment communication. Let's start with the introduction of communication at work. In workplace communications with friends, strangers, etc., there are unwritten rules that are followed when speaking English. These unwritten rules are often referred to as register use or workplace communication skills when referring to employment. Good workplace communication skills use can help you communicate effectively. Incorrect workplace communication can cause problems at work, cause people to ignore you, or at best, send the wrong message. Of course, correct workplace communication is very difficult for many learners of English. Effective communication is critical to creating a productive and empowering work environment. Employee engagement and trust results when people feel heard, valued, and empowered.
So this video is about improving communication in the workplace. Well, the first thing you can do to improve communication in the workplace is to create and foster an environment of openness and positivity. One where people feel like they are free to express themselves and free to talk about what is on their mind. One of the best ways you can do this is to call a meeting among all team members and then just open the floor to questions, comments, concerns, observations, and just let people talk freely. A lot of good things, a lot of good conversations, and a lot of knowledge sharing and experience sharing happens at these meetings, while connecting people, helping people to connect as human beings, and ultimately finding out new strategies to make whatever your job place is better, more productive, and more efficient, and happier. So, call a meeting, let people speak their minds. If people are slow to speak, then just ask a couple of open-ended suggestive questions like, has anyone noticed any problems in this area? Has anyone, what are people experiencing when they're looking at this or that? And why does this happen the way this does? But not in an accusatory tone, but just in an open way that we're just all trying to make things better. I find that this can help people start to see each other as allies more and feel more comfortable around each other. Another thing you can do at work is to always ask, what can I give? So this could be a compliment or just a positive observation, shining light on someone else's accomplishment, offering to help someone, thanking someone for their help, and you do something small that's positive for people, and it's gonna make a positive difference overall for everyone and for your team.
Let us now discuss the meaning of communication at work. Communication is sharing information between two or more individuals, the act of conveying information. Because communication has so many components, failing to effectively communicate in the workplace is commonplace. Components in communication. There are 4 components to any communication that is the overall environment of the workplace in which the communication takes place. The components of communication are the individual sending the message. The sender must present the message clearly and with enough detail so that the receiver shares meaning with the sender. The context for the message. The context is how the message is delivered by the sender of the message. Context involves nonverbal communication, such as gestures, body language, facial expressions, and elements such as tone of voice. Another piece of the context is the emotions that are involved in the communication circle. The person receiving the message. The receiver must listen carefully and intently, ask questions for clarity, and paraphrase to ascertain that the receiver shares meaning with the sender. The delivery method chosen. The delivery method should be selected based on the medium most effective to convey the meaning of the message. Did you know? About the 10th century, from the Far East to the West came cotton paper, which was in common use by the 12th century. A great advance in writing material came in the 14th century with the introduction of paper, made from linen rags. Now we will study the nature and functions of letters. Of all forms of written communication, letters are the most common, the most frequent, and the most personal means of communication. One might more readily agree to write a letter than a technical proposal, a scientific paper, or a report. Correspondence is still playing a key role around the world. Even in this modern world, it is helping us to maintain communication with the people separated by distance. In spite of the advent of modern means of telecommunication such as telephone, telegraph, and cellular phone, the importance of letters has not decreased a little. Communication specialists have identified a number of factors which one has to bear in mind while writing letters for commercial purposes. Over the years, these factors have taken the form of a set of principles for writing business letters effectively. The main purpose of writing a letter is to arouse the reader's interest and stimulate in him good mood. And to achieve this goal, your letter needs to have the necessary built-in attraction. The aim of your writing is to open the mind of the reader to the message. There is one sure way of doing it. Place yourself in the position of your correspondent and anticipate his feelings and reactions. Principles of letter writing. Before one can produce an effective letter, one must give some thought to planning and organizing what you intend to say. The first step you should take is to determine exactly what you want your letter to accomplish. Preparing a statement of the subject of your letter will help you to clarify the purpose of your letter and will give you some guidelines on what you should include and what you should omit. Some common purposes of naval letters are to request permission or authorization to act, to request that action be taken, to request information, to supply information or instructions that was not requested, to reply to a request for permission or authorization to take an action, to reply to a request that an action be taken, to reply to a request for information. Organizing the letter. The various parts of letter should be organized with the reader's viewpoint in mind. Choice of words. Use simple language. The best words are those that are precise in meaning, suited to the intended reader, and are as short, simple, and direct as possible. Completing the letter. Review your draft before you type it in the smooth. Make sure your letter tells the story with tact, simplicity, and clarity. Letter components and layouts. The resource is organized in the order in which one should write a letter, starting with sender's address if the letter is not written on letterhead. Sender's address. The sender's address usually is included in letterhead. If you are not using letterhead, include the sender's address at the top of the letter, one line above the date. Date. The date line is used to indicate the date the letter was written. Inside address. The inside address is the recipient's address. It is always best to write to a specific individual at the firm to which you are writing. If you do not have the person's name, do some research by calling the company or speaking with employees from the company. Salutation. Use the same name as the inside address, including the personal title. If you know the person and typically address them by their first name, it is acceptable to use only the first name in the salutation. Body. For block and modified block formats, single space and left justify each paragraph within the body of the letter. Closing. The closing begins at the same vertical point as your date and one line after the last body paragraph. Enclosures. If one has enclosed any documents along with the letter, such as a resume, you indicate this simply by typing enclosures one line below the closing. Typist initials. Typist initials are used to indicate the person who typed the letter. If you type the letter yourself, omit the typist initials. Process of letter writing. Letter writing occurs in many forms and formats, including notes, letters, and postcards. Sometimes referred to as hard copy or snail mail, letter writing is often distinguished from forms of computer-mediated communication, CMC, such as email and texting. Many people put off writing because they find the process frustrating, or they feel that their ideas should be in order before they begin. Let's know about job application letters. A job application letter, also known as a cover letter, should be sent or uploaded with the resume when applying for jobs. Preparation. Read the advert closely so that one can tailor the application to the requirements of the job. Composing the letter or email. General points are: keep it brief. There is no need to give a lot of detail. What one is aiming for is a clear and concise explanation of their suitability for the job. Begin letter or email, Dear Mr., Mrs., Miss, if one knows the person's name, or Dear Sir or Madam if they do not know their name. Avoid inappropriate language such as slang or technical jargon. Use brief, informative sentences and short paragraphs. Check spelling, grammar, and punctuation carefully. Some employers routinely discard job applications that contain such mistakes. Structure. The usual order of a job application letter or email is the position applied for. Give the title of the job as a heading, or refer to it in the first sentence of the letter, using the reference code if there is one. The current situation. If one is working, briefly outline current job. The reasons for wanting the job. Be clear and positive about why one wants the job. Resume. A resume is a short, concise document that states relevant information regarding education, skills, experiences, accomplishments, and job-related interests. Purpose of a resume. A resume is a self-marketing tool. The purpose of the resume is to effectively communicate employees' assets in writing to an employer. It is needed to know what employers want and then present it to them in a clear, easy-to-follow format. Types of resumes. There are several basic types of resumes used to apply for job openings. Chronological resume. A chronological resume starts by listing work history with the most recent position listed first. Functional resume. A functional resume focuses on one's skills and experience rather than on chronological work history. It is used most often by people who are changing careers or who have gaps in their employment history. Combination resume. A combination resume lists the skills and experience first. Resignation letters. A resignation letter is a letter formally advising the employer that one is leaving their job. A resignation letter can help employee to maintain positive relationship with the employer while paving the way for one to move on. What to include in resignation letter? The fact that one is leaving and date when the resignation is effective. Thanks to the employer for the opportunities one has had during your employment. It is usually better to resign in person and then follow up with a formal resignation letter. However, if one needs to send a resignation email, write it as professionally as one would a resignation letter on paper. Regardless of why one is resigning or how one feels about it, if one mentions why he/she is leaving, make sure that one does not include anything negative or disparaging about the company, supervisor, co-workers, or subordinates. Termination letter. A termination letter is a written document that formally states that an employee is laid off or fired. The employer typically gives the letter to the former employee after holding a termination meeting with the employee and an HR representative. If the employee is fired, the letter may itemize the reasons for being fired. The letter may also include information on benefits and severance, if any, and the ending date of employment. Goodwill letters. A goodwill letter is a letter written by a company to build good relationships, create good reputation, and show friendliness with other company and business. Condolence letter. A condolence letter is a piece of correspondence sent to someone to express condolences for a death. Letters of congratulation. Congratulation letter is written to send wishes and express feelings to friends and colleagues for different events and occasions. This letter may be used for different situations. For example, for sending marriage congratulations, birthday, engagement, job promotion, educational success, and achievement. This letter is used in personal and professional events and occasions. Employment letters. An employment letter verifies one's employment with an organization. The employment letter is often requested when signing a lease agreement, when applying for a loan, negotiating the terms of life insurance, or planning immigration. Purpose. The purpose of an employment letter is simply to verify the employee's position with the company, stating how long the employee has been employed within an organization. Format and style. The employment letter is an official document that is printed on the company's letterhead. Promotion letter. Promotion is something that every employee thrives for and works towards. It is a letter from the boss to the worker telling him about the new job and its tasks, duties. A promotion letter can also be a company-wide letter sent in a common part that tells the achievements of the worker and summarizes their new duties. Emails. Email is simply the shortened form of electronic mail, a system for receiving, sending, and storing electronic messages. It has gained nearly universal popularity around the world with the spread of the Internet. In many times, email has become the preferred method for both personal and communication. Did you know? The resume has changed drastically over the hundreds of years that have passed since Leonardo da Vinci created the first official resume in 1482. As one of the most common forms of communication within an office environment, the memo or memorandum serves as a quick note to convey information from one section of the company to another. It may be drafted by management and addressed to other employees, or from a department head to the company at large. Generally, a memo will include a few basic elements, such as the name of the originator of the document, the intended recipient or recipients, the date of issue, the general topic, and the body of the document that contains the information to be shared. Structure. A memo's purpose is often to inform, but it occasionally includes an element of persuasion or a call to action. All organizations have informal and formal communication networks. The unofficial, informal communication network within an organization is often called the grapevine, and it is often characterized by rumor, gossip, and innuendo. Sample memo format template. A memo has a header that clearly indicates who sent it, and who the intended recipients are. Date and subject lines are also present, followed by a message that contains a declaration, a discussion, and a summary. Tips to write model business memo. There are 5 tips which can help to write a model business memo. Audience orientation. Always consider the audience and their needs when preparing a memo. Professional and formal tone. Memos are often announcements, and the person sending the memo speaks for a part or all of the organization. Subject emphasis. The subject is normally declared in the subject line and should be clear and concise. Direct format. Some written business communication allows for a choice between direct and indirect formats, but memorandums are always direct. Meeting. Formal meetings are held at definite times at a definite place, and usually for a definite duration to follow an agreed-upon agenda. In a corporate setting, they are divided into 2 main groups. Organizational meeting. Normally, a regular meeting involving stockholders, shareholders, and management, such as a board meeting and annual general meeting, AGM. Operational meeting. General or ad hoc meeting involving management and employees, such as a committee meeting, planning meeting, and sales meeting. Brochure. A brochure is a small printed paper piece usually made from a single sheet. Brochures are typically 8.5 inches by 11 inches or 8.5 inches by 14 inches trifold, but they can have different dimensions and numbers of folds. Brochures are often also referred to as pamphlets or leaflets. Brochures give potential customers and investors an overall view of a company. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Effective communication is critical to creating a productive and empowering work environment. Employee engagement and trust results when people feel heard, valued, and empowered. The various parts of letters should be organized with the reader's viewpoint in mind. Use only the references that are necessary, and keep in mind that addressees may not have access to certain references. Letter writing occurs in many forms and formats, including notes, letters, and postcards. Sometimes referred to as hard copy or snail mail, letter writing is often distinguished from forms of computer-mediated communication, CMC, such as email and texting. The purpose of the resume is to effectively communicate employees' assets in writing to an employer. A condolence letter is written within 2 weeks of a death. It is written on formal and simple stationery and written out by hand rather than being typed.